Hey everyone, it's Cyrano, and today I'm doing my review on Mass Effect 3. Mass Effect 3 is the final game in a trilogy of games that I've been reviewing, and this game has brought up a lot of tension between players. Some people love it, some people hate it, and some people simply hate it just because of the ending. Now, to me, Mass Effect 3, it's a good game. It fixes a lot of problems that I didn't like, such as the planet scanning. And everything feels useful. Everything I'm doing in the game feels useful. I didn't mind the main storyline, although this is the hard part. Mass Effect 3 main storyline, as a general game on its own, it's a pretty good storyline. It's a good game. But people are expecting all their questions to be answered because this is the final game in the trilogy. And it's simply impossible. Because you've got a limited budget and you cannot cover every conceivable possible outcome in the game. What I would have preferred was just maybe 2 possible outcomes. So you have your normal game now, make it so if you didn't destroy the collector base, this would be the storyline, and then just have an alternate storyline. So you don't need 10 different storylines, just 2 would have done, and you could reuse all the areas except change the events slightly. Instead of fighting for Earth, you could be fighting for Cerberus. Now, if they had done this, I think they would have had a much better reception to the game as you play the game. At the moment, all BioWare has pretty much proven is that every single dialogue choice that you've ever made, it's an illusion of choice. There is no real choice. And I guess this is what hit gamers so hard with this game. It's like, yeah, there's all this choice and it means absolutely nothing in the long scheme of things. Because when you get to the end of the game, you practically choose the ending you want. It doesn't even happen according to the events that you've done in the game. Now, I don't know why they didn't make like a dual storyline, considering a lot of these areas are already reused from the multiplayer side of the game. So it's not like they haven't already been reusing these zones. So, in my opinion, they should have just made two storylines. And not all of that has to be different. Just maybe just a bit of it, because if you go to these planets, you might have to have all the same fighting scenes and everything. Okay, there just might be different dialogue. And I guess that's where the game's biggest expense comes from, the dialogue. So, alright, so as I mentioned, the planet scanning's gone, and you just scan a whole system. And you might get attacked. If you scan too often, you have to escape to another star system. I like it. It wasn't annoying, and it was almost a minigame there. The hacking minigames and that are gone. I wish they would have stayed, except for when you're in combat, just automatically remove them. But I guess BioWare was just trying to keep it the same between multiplayer and single player, but to me, I didn't mind the hacking minigames. The skills are a bit different to Mass Effect 2. They've pretty much been balanced, so that all the skills you're using in single player, you can use in multiplayer, and the single player really is a good warm-up to the multiplayer. One problem with this game is because it's the end of a trilogy, there isn't really any surprises in the storyline. And this could mean the storyline, it just isn't as well written, or it just could mean we know just about everything about the Mass Effect universe, and there's not much else they can throw our way. One more problem with content is that, they probably planned out a whole lot of DLC, and with that, people won't have the answers to their questions either. They have to wait for the DLC, and that's just going to piss a few people off, I think. The problem is you can't please people. They might say, for example, I might have loved the fan from Mass Effect 1. What the hell happened to my fan? He should be in this game. What? He's not in this game? You know, that could be my favourite part of the game, and it's not there. So that I might feel that BioWare is not paying attention to the storyline, and you're just not adding the content that should be there. It's just everyone will have their own personal part of the game that they like, and it's just impossible for BioWare to cover all those angles on the budget they've got. The graphics engine has been modified slightly. It does use the Unreal Engine still, which is a very fast engine, and it looks good, but everything now has a more gritty look to it, maybe a more realistic look to it. You'll definitely notice as soon as you start the game and you look at your Shepard, it looks completely different. Now, probably the biggest change in Mass Effect 3 is that Mass Effect 3 has multiplayer and Mass Effect 2 doesn't. Now, I was one of those people who put my hand up and said, you're adding multiplayer to Mass Effect, you guys are idiots. Absolute idiots. Concentrate on the single player part of the game. But it's kind of sad because the multiplayer part of the game is the best part of the game. The community is extremely active, and there are constant events, running weekend events. New maps have been added, new enemies have been added, and EA continue to support it, and it continues to get played. It is one of the best horde type games that I've played, where you group up and you fight wave after wave of enemies. You start off with a level 1 class, you get to choose your class, and it levels up, and you choose the skills that you want to use. And different races of the same class have different skills, and these things unlock randomly as you sort of finish the matches up. So I found myself very surprised with Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, and I really hope that they add a multiplayer component to Mass Effect 4, because I'd like to continue playing this. Overall, I think Mass Effect 3, look, I think it's a great game, and it's my favourite in the series, simply because I've spent the most time on it. And they fix a lot of flaws while having trouble meeting all those storyline commitments. There's just too much for them to complete, and not enough money to do it, I reckon. And even with that, I would have to give this Mass Effect a 9 out of 10. There's just nothing really wrong with the game. The main storyline is fine. The missions are fine. They fixed a lot of the annoying planet scanning and boring ass parts of the game that they had. And you know what? They brought it to a reasonable conclusion. Yes, they may not be able to please everyone, but I think they've done a pretty good job. This is Cyrano, and thanks for listening.
Outstanding work. Enemy is still active. Stay alert. Enemy force approaching. Heartless scramblers for disrupting our enemy's long-range communications. Find those targets and get them going.
Got it. Come on! Ahead!
Target outside. Half the devices are greenlit. Stay on it. Squad member in trouble. Device enabled.
I owe you!
Devices are working. Good job.
Hey!
Down to the last enemy.
One more!
Enemies down. Good shooting. Enemy is regrouping. Time to reload. Rendezvous at LZ for extraction.